Welcome back. It's been windy. The destruction's getting pretty terrible. We will rebuild. Done. Also, it's been very hot. Averaging probably mid-90s around here. And so it's really taking the moisture out, but we haven't started pivots yet. But what I'm gonna do right now is, this guy is just kind of a little field conditioner to do our ends and pivot roads, and I'm gonna go do a pivot road right now in the old 6155R. It smells like hot interior. We've used that sprayer about no times this week. Now this week we never got anything done spraying. We got the corn all sprayed the second time around. So once the wind goes down, we're gonna start spraying some soybeans here. I don't know if tomorrow will be the day. It's supposed to actually kind of cool off tomorrow, but I think it's supposed to still be breezy, so we'll see how that goes. These 6000 series tractors are quiet. I would say it's more quiet than my pickup. Just nice on a day like today. Welcome to the field, guys. We're out here, what we call ridging out here in Nebraska. It's a practice out here we use predominantly for getting the field ready to lay out pipe along. And we call them gravity fields, irrigated pipe. I don't know. I usually call them gravity fields just because it takes gravity to take the water from one end out of the pipe and flow to the other end of the field, and essentially irrigating that whole row. So the idea behind this is to create a ridge for that water to run down, so we can lay pipe down clear at that end horizontally with the, we'll call the field vertical. I don't know, that's dumb, but we're gonna lay the pipe along the end of that end, and it'll have gates along it, and every row or every other row we can run water down. The idea is for it to flow in these rows and end up clear at the end. And while it's flowing down the rows, it'll soak along that ridge and irrigate the corn. And that's kind of how we do it on these gravity fields. Hopefully that makes sense. First pass of the 2020 ridging season. It's a little firm. I'm on a field that was soybeans last year, so it's kind of mellow enough. We didn't cultivate it. What cultivated is, it's not a field cultivator, but there's also a thing that kind of looks similar to this. It'll go up and down the rows and cultivate it. It won't throw much of a ridge, but it'll kind of soften up that ground, till any weeds out, and kind of prepare the way for the ridger. So sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't cultivate. So I'm not cultivating this one just because it doesn't need it. Let's take a look at some stuff. So these are kind of what a ridging sweep looks like. These are made by Hawkins. These are probably 150 years old, but we've had them for quite a while. We mounted them on a ridger, or a ridger bar, a Northman bar. What we had was 2 6-rows. When we were wider row, the 36-inch, and now when we switched to 30-inch, we just created one 12-row. Fairly simple setup. You just kind of got a sweep that kind of breaks that ground ahead of it. Some of them don't even have that on some I've seen. Then you got your gauge wheels here that kind of control the depth that you're running these at. The goal of this is to create a nice ridge that water can run down through. And as you can see, we still got some decent moisture even after all these hot winds. But it's something, after you kind of break this open, that's kind of the struggle, is waiting as long as you can to break it open, and height of corn. How do I want to say this? You want to preserve the moisture you can as long as you can. And so this is about perfect right here. This is a decent height. I'm able to go a decent speed. And we still got moisture, and we got a little rain in the forecast, which would be good to get on top of this to kind of seal it back over. Because if rain will kind of, I don't know, once it rains on it, kind of creates a pack and seals it back up, which would be nice for beginning to start running water down the rows because it'll just kind of firm it back up and creates a little bit nicer pass instead of if we just run it right away. It's got a little bit more obstacle, excuse me, a little more obstacles to run down if we were to start it right away. So a nice rain on it will kind of firm that up and just create that trench a little better. Sometimes you don't get it, so that's why we ridge and get it done and hope. It's 11:42. Where's lunch? She takes forever. Sometimes you get hungry, you start looking around for leftover goodies that might be in here. Some trash down there. Do I trust it? They're sealed. Not sure how old it is, but it's doing the job. At least making my job about time she show up. It's 12:04. Ridiculous. I think I'm gonna give her a piece of my mind when she gets here. What kind of move was that? Hey honey, how you doing? Thank you so much. Come here, rascal. What do you think? Hi. Say bye, Mom. Told her. So what did Mom bring us?
Pizza.
Let's see if you're lying. Oh, she brought Mom.
What?
Leftover dinosaur.
That's for me.
Oh, okay.
This is one I told you.
No, it is. That's always for me.
It's looking at me.
Yeah, it is. Kind of cloudy, ain't it? Maybe later. But I think tomorrow night is when it's supposed to. Would you like to tell everybody on the camera if you're going to have a brother and a sister someday?
Sister.
Going to have a sister someday. Sometime around harvest, we're going to have another little one around here. October. We're done with this one, aren't we, Gary? Should we go to the next one? So if you're wondering how I'm able to auto track this, we save our A/B lines from planting season. I gotta actually go around a little swerve here. We have everything programmed into these monitors, so it keeps the coordinates, and your A/B line is, if you ever hear us talk about A/B line, it's where we set a point A, and then we drive to the other end of the field, and then we set the point B, and then it creates your GPS heading, which is anywhere from 1 to 0 to 360 degrees, just depending on the direction you're heading. And so that's how I'm able to come back and auto track this without having to drive, is by doing that. So far this year, these have been about some of the most optimal conditions I've ever ridged corn in. Usually you can't go much above 5, sometimes it's 4, you know, it just depends on the height you come in. Usually if you let the corn get really tall, you can go faster until your tractor starts snapping it off. So it's all a timing game. You want to make sure you can get in the field before it gets too tall, because you don't get much room. With these newer tractors, the axle's actually set lower than some of the older two-wheel drives that we used to in the past, like a 4430 or a 4630. Even like I remember, I think the last time 4840 was the last two-wheel drive that I ridged with. Your axles kind of came out and down, and they just gave you a little bit more, where these are kind of more straight across because they're mechanical fronts. So it gives you a few inches of less clearance. I know some of the newer ILS's, independent link suspensions on these, the newer tractors, I think you can actually go into your settings and actually kind of tilt the tractor back and lift those up to maybe give you a little bit more clearance. But it might be splitting hairs too, so. But I think my brother's, you can do that, is 82, 85, so I've never really had to use it yet. So how'd you get over there? Just keeping it interesting, aren't you? Hello, buddy. Did we get done with that one? We're going to the next. On to the next. Big John in the sprayer. So if we get down to this end, it's kind of a more gumbo-y end. It'll kind of make the ridger jerk a little bit, but it kind of tends to slab a little bit more. This isn't terrible, just trying to find the balance in between there. If you go to this row, it's a lot better. Just a few inches or so kind of makes all the difference. But that's kind of the balance of where it works. But we got to take a leak, that's why we're actually out here. You're on camera. How's it look?
Good.
Good. Ready to load up? Let's load up. We got to keep rolling.
One more row.
Got to check one more row? Okay, check it real quick. That looks like a good row to check. You done checking? Let's roll. And just like that, he was gone, out of my life again. Well, there's something I'm gonna ignore that I didn't see. So I got one more pass here. The trouble is I got really no good place to turn around down there without running over a bunch of corn. So I'm gonna pull up here, and it may look goofy, but I'm just gonna back all the way down, but that'll keep me from having to run over a bunch of corn down there. I'll just be able to pull right down and hopefully run over as little as possible. Corn is looking good on them hills. That one's got a good color. It's all dark green all up and over. Most corn's starting to kind of find all the nitrogen, I think, and root down and taking off now. I'm pretty good considering this whole week just been beaten and battered by the wind. We've had some phenomenal wind days. One of them in particular was just, well, it was actually, let's see, what's today? Earlier this week or something. I can't remember what day it was, but I mean, it was just pretty impressive, let's say that. I can't remember exactly, but So it's kind of coming out of it. It's opening it up. Today's still a little breezy, but nothing like it's been. So it's good to see things starting to perk back up and hopefully get rolling. Maybe we'll get some moisture here this weekend, and man, that'd be awesome.
Sunny Tuesday, ring the doorbell. That up, that up, that up, that up, that up. Feel like